Hey guys and girls, in this video, we're going to take a look at the best graphics cards. I made this list based on my personal opinion and tons of research, and have listed them based on quality, durability, price, and more. I've included options for every type of consumer, so if you're looking for an entry-level option, or the best product money can buy, we'll have the product for you in this list. If you want more information and updated pricing on the products mentioned, be sure to check the links in the description down below. Also, if you want a chance to win one of the graphics cards in the video, just subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification bell, and leave a comment with a hidden word in the video. Okay, so without further ado, this is our pick of the best graphic cards on the market right now. Coming in number 8, we've got the AMD Radeon RX 590. Originally a $280 graphics card, the RX 590 now routinely sells for around $200 or less. That makes a world of difference in value, and performance is still good. The GTX 1660 is roughly tied with the RX 590 at the same price, and it's a more efficient card. However, there are games where the 6GB on the NVIDIA card can be a bit limiting. We rate the RX 590 just ahead of the GTX 1660 for performance, though that's splitting hairs. If you're trying to keep the GPU cost under $200, RX 590 is still a good option. Just make sure you have a PSU with the necessary 8-pin and 6-pin power connections that most 590 cards can use. Coming at number 7, GeForce GTX 1660 Super 6GB. The release of the GTX 1660 Super makes for the perfect middle ground between the 1660 Ti and 1660. While not as expensive as the Ti, the performance ends up overlapping the Ti in many categories. So, you end up with a graphics card that's great for 1080p gaming and doesn't break the bank, making it one of the best graphic cards for under $300. For context, you can get over 70 frames per second on Borderlands 3 with medium graphic presets, which isn't too shabby. Unfortunately, you lose the newer NVIDIA RTX features such as ray tracing, which is a bummer. If you're building a budget PC, ray tracing isn't as big of a deal when you just want to play games well. Number 6, AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT. AMD's Radeon RX 5700 XT uses the Navi 10 GPU, and it's the first major 7nm GPU to hit the market. The 5700 XT is technically the middle offering between the base 5700 and the 5700 XT 50th Anniversary Edition, and takes full advantage of the shiny new RDNA architecture update and a spacious 8GB of GDDR6 to deliver performance just barely ahead of NVIDIA's 2060 Super for a slightly lower price. The 5700 XT is a fantastic card if you're looking to push really high frame rates on a high refresh rate display at 1080p. Or you can crave a stable 60-ish frames per second at QHD, with AMD's last-minute price drop knocking the 5700 XT down to $399. It's an extremely viable alternative to NVIDIA's 2060 Super. It may lack dedicated hardware or driver support for ray tracing, but in terms of sheer in-game performance, it edges out the 2060 Super by a narrow margin. If you're not overly concerned about DXR or Vulkan RT support, or if you're squarely in the red team's camp, the 5700 XT is an easy recommendation, especially if you're upgrading from a card that's a couple of generations old. Coming in at number 5, NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060 Super. The best graphics card isn't simply the fastest graphics card or the cheapest graphics card. Instead, the best graphic card needs to balance performance, price, and features. There are many great graphics cards, but for a great GPU that won't break the bank, NVIDIA's RTX 2060 Super is probably the best option. It delivers performance roughly equal to a vanilla RTX 2070, but retails for $100 less. If you want to play games at 1080p or 1440p, On a 144Hz display, the 2060 Super has the chops to handle most games at close to high or ultra quality. It's about 10% faster than the previous generation, GTX 1080, and basically matches AMD's new RX 5700 XT. For DXR and ray tracing games, 1080p with DLSS often works well, and in few cases, 1440p with DLSS. Don't be shy about turning the ray tracing setting down a notch as well. As in most games, so far there's not much visual difference between ultra and high quality DXR modes. Coming at number 4, NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070 Super. The ray tracing feature may sound great, but what if you can't afford $700 or more on a graphics card? That's where NVIDIA's RTX 2070 Super enters the picture. The middle option of the new lineup, the 2070 Super retails at $499, the same price as the vanilla 2070 at launch, and offers a substantial performance improvement. That's still a lot of money for a graphics card, and the old 2070 is only slightly faster with the previous generation 1080 Ti, see below. At least in games that doesn't support DLSS, which is most games. The RTX 2070 Super moves to the TU104 chip from the previous version's TU106, which enables more cores and increases clock speeds. The performance bump is pretty predictable, but also very welcome when it doesn't come with an increase in price. As a play to stay ahead of AMD's RX 5700 and 5700 XT launch, it's very convincing. Though as a new product stack, it's not earth-shaking. The 2070 Super can attack AAA games at 4K if you're willing to turn down graphic settings to medium or high, and it does an excellent job of pushing more than 60 frames per second at QHD. Needless to say, if you've got an incredibly high refresh rate monitor or TV, you can squeeze some very high rates out at 1080p Ultra. The 2070 Super may not be a revolution, but it's an excellent card at a very convincing price. Number 3, NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Super. Sure, the RTX 2080 Ti is the fastest gaming card and has all sorts of cool and potentially useful features, but at the current prices, it's a tough pill to swallow. Dropping down to the new RTX 2080 Super will get you still excellent performance. It's the second fastest consumer GPU, edging out the base 2080 and GTX 1080 Ti, and save you a bunch of cash, as even the Founders Edition retails for $700. The one major caveat right now is that we're still waiting for more universal adoption of ray tracing and DLSS. We've got Battlefield 5, Metro Exodus, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Control, with unreleased games like Cyberpunk 2077 and the Call of Duty reboot recently climbing on the bandwagon. The RTX 2080 Super can run all of those games with ray tracing. Though if you're looking for a 4K Ultra and 60 frames per second, the Super isn't quite there. Still, it can deliver very playable frame rates in the vast majority of AAA titles at 4K. Though on the extreme end, you may need to tweak some settings down. Metro Exodus, for instance, with its taxing global illumination ray tracing, is a strain. Even with a $700 GPU, 1440p typically works best at slightly reduced ray tracing quality mode and with DLSS enabled. Coming at number 2, AMD Radeon RX 570 4GB. While nowhere near the top of our list for performance, this is a great value pick if you're looking to game on a budget. AMD's Polaris architecture has been around a few years, and while it's beginning to show its age, it's also significantly cheaper now than when it launched. It's an excellent card to tackle the current 1080p era of gaming, and if you're still leaning on integrated graphics or an older card, it's a cheap upgrade. Most desktops are more than capable of running this 150-watt card without any difficulty, though you'll need at least a 6-pin power connector, or possibly an 8-pin connector. sales often drop the price of RX 574GB cards to $110 to $120. Though with the launch of the RX 5500 XT, supplies of Polaris may finally be drying up. Regardless, so as long as your PSU is up to snuff, the RX 570 pretty much kills off the market for anything lower. If you're building a budget PC or upgrading from an older, outdated GPU, the RX 570 is a great starting point. Number 1. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti is the latest and most potent GPU around, and it's also one of the largest consumer GPUs ever produced. The Turing TU-102 is 60% larger than the Pascal GP102 in the 1080 Ti, with 55% more transistors. Those extra transistors went into more CUDA cores, but NVIDIA didn't stop there, adding Tensor cores to help accelerate deep learning algorithms like DLSS, plus RT cores to accelerate ray tracing. There are plenty of other enhancements in the Turing architecture as well, but if you want the best, be prepared to shell out. The cheapest 2080 Ti cards start at $999, with many selling for $1,199 and up. Technically, there's also the Titan RTX, which more than doubles the price of the 2080 Ti, but it's more of a prosumer card than anything we'd recommend for pure gaming purposes. The biggest issue with DTX and RTX hardware right now is the lack of games. Although this problem is getting less and less significant, there were a few games when these cards first launched. Battlefield 5, Assetto Corsa Composizione, Metro Exodus, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, plus a few tech demos, Quake 2 with RT, and some overseas titles, Justice. But with Unreal Engine and Unity both supporting DTX, we should start seeing more ray tracing games later this year and early next. Cyberpunk 2077 and the Call of Duty reboot have already announced they'll support ray tracing, with Control, Wolfenstein Youngblood recently adding it for their launches. That brings us to the end of our review and buyer's guide for the best graphics card. Hope to see you in the next video. Let us know in the comments what is your favorite one, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe and get notified when we launch new videos. Thanks for watching. Peace.